Hello and welcome to the Freakish Lemon video podcast. I am your host, the Freakish Lemon. I go by Adrian and I use masculine pronouns. Welcome any new viewers. Thank you so much for clicking on whatever you clicked on to get here. And welcome back any returning viewers. I really appreciate that you're willing to spend more time with me. This is a crafty type podcast coming to you from the Northwest Hills of Connecticut, and as always, show notes can always be found at my website at freakishlemon.com or freakishlemonpodcast.com. They go to the same place. You can also find us at the group on Ravelry. Just search Freakish Lemon in the groups tab and you will find us. You can follow me at all the fun places as Freakish Lemon, like Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Ravelry. And all the links to all those things will be in the down bar here on YouTube or somewhere around here if you're watching this somewhere else. And if you are here on YouTube and you want to follow what I'm doing, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss whenever I put something up on this channel. And that's an option. I just kicked this little table. There's a little table over here where my laptop is for my show notes. It's a different table than the one I used last time, so I might keep kicking it, just so you're aware. I'm filming this on Saturday, June 17th, 2017, and I'm filming at night again, so we'll see how coherent I am. It's much later than the last time I filmed at night, which was the last episode. I don't know. Nobody bothers me down here at nighttime, so we're gonna roll with it for now. We start this podcast out with a little bit of podcast stuff related to the podcast, which is self-explanatory. First up, we are running a couple of alongs, and by we I mean me, because it's just me over here. Blanket Make-Along 2017. Started January 1st, is running till the end of 2017. If you are working on a blanket, huzzah! Join us in the thread, post pictures of your blanket and what you're working on. That's the only criteria. You don't have to start the blanket in 2017, you don't have to finish the blanket in 2017, you just have to have worked on a blanket in 2017 because those things take forever sometimes and we want to encourage everybody to get those projects moving along. Also, hashtag 2017blanket_MAL on social media if you want to have your stuff searchable for this blanket make-along, which I always forget to do things for. Yes, there's a thread over in the Ravelry group where people are encouraging each other and sharing patterns and all this kind of fun stuff. And it's also a prize drawing thread because I am drawing quarterly prizes to encourage participation. The second quarter is wrapping up, so I will be drawing a prize. I think I said last episode that I was drawing this episode, but then I remembered that I'd never shown anybody or told anybody what the actual prize package for the second quarter is. So that's not exactly fair, is it? So I'm gonna show you the prize packages I will draw next episode. So first is the physical prize package. One physical, one digital this time. So the physical prize package is going to consist of this skein of Groovy Hues fiber in the I've Got Batik in My Belfry from that package from Sherry that I got a month ago? I don't know, she was very generous and she gave a bunch of skeins, so this skein is going to be part of the prize package. And the Constellation project bag and the knit stitch markers from Shayna from Fate's Thread on Etsy are also going to be part of the prize package. As well as a few other little bits and bobs to go in there. But those are the main items in the prize package. This beautiful skein of yarn and this beautiful project bag and these awesome stitch markers, which are really getting spotlight shiny. there's not really a good place I can twist that because I've got two lights here. So yeah, that's the physical prize package. The digital prize that will be up for grabs for the second quarter is a Ravelry pattern of your choosing, up to the value of $10 US, generously donated by Millet. I forgot to look up how you pronounce that last name, but that's her username on Ravelry. So that's very exciting that she's going to be supporting another $10 prize Ravelry pattern. So that's what's up for grabs. You still got time to show pictures of your blanket, what you've been working on. If you've made any progress, talk about it, and post it in the Ravelry thread over at the Freakish Lemon video podcast group. The other along that I am running is Sith and Spin, which I will talk about more in the spinning segment of this podcast. But just know up front, in case you need to stop and go check it out, there's a thread up on Ravelry. It's a spin along that's running from June 1st to August 31st. The only criteria is you have to be spinning and consuming Star Wars media at some point at the same time. So, to enter, you would post a photo of the thing you're spinning on and talk about the Star Wars thing that you are watching or listening to or playing or what have you. Movies, TV shows, audiobooks, regular books, video games, whatever. Just talk about the thing you're doing. And that's how you enter into Sith and Spin, which I do a lot of sithing and spinning. I really do. It's slightly troublesome. It's why I have a spin along, so it seems less weird. That's not true. I would not stop if I did not have a spin along. It's just, another way for me to force my obsession with Star Wars onto everyone that I know. That's really it. And then I have another bullet point here about the Ravelry group. I need some feedback from you guys. What do you want to see going on in the Ravelry group? I know I'm not great at consistent online participation. I am not good at community building. I'm really terrible at community building and community involvement. It's one of those things, especially with participation in free content, that I am particularly bad at and inconsistent with. Frankly, there's not much action going on in the Ravelry group, except for the Blanket Make Along thread right now. What do you guys want this thread or group to be used for? What threads are there in other Ravelry groups that you would like to see in this one, for this group of viewers? How can I make this a better experience for you? I'm trying to work on improving my involvement in online community, because I'm frankly very terrible at it. I'm starting small with the fanfic community because I'm constantly in contact with fanfiction because that's my entire life. And I'm starting there with commenting more, with kudos, with reblogs on Tumblr, with just trying to engage in a way that's consistent and not going to take up all of my mental energy. So participation and community building and online socialization in a group is not something that comes naturally to me, because those are not things that come naturally to me in the physical world either. So I'm trying to work on that, and as somebody who does produce free content for the internet, I would just like all of you at some point today to take a moment and leave a comment on somebody's podcast or a fanfic or a piece of artwork that you see. Just leave a comment saying how much you like it. It's really validating to hear that as a content creator. You don't have to do that on my podcast. I know I'm a bit of a mess, but you know, somebody at one piece of digital content that you are consuming today, take the time to make a comment, or, you know, if there's a like button. Sorry, cracking my knuckles. I shouldn't be doing that on the podcast. If there's a like button, hit like. You know, if there's a thumbs up or a heart or something, you know. I think a lot of us, especially if it's passive media that we're consuming, like artwork or video, or text-based things, we don't always stop to think about the work that went into that thing. So, yeah. Just, you know, take an extra second at some point today, the day you're watching this, to comment on somebody's thing that they made online and tell them how much you liked it. Because I think that's a habit that a lot of us need to cultivate a smidge better. I know I'm guilty of just like watching and not even like I've read extraordinarily long and detailed fanfics and didn't comment on them once, and that's just not cool. That's not cool. I know I don't comment on podcasts enough because I tend to put them on the TV and just let them scroll by. It's a thing. It's a thing that I'm becoming very aware of right now, as I try to avoid everything else in the world. So let's spread a little positivity today, and if you do feel like commenting on my video, please answer my questions about what you'd like to see in the Ravelry group, if there's anything that I could do to improve your experience, or if what kind of changes you might like to see. Just a thought. Life stuff. I have one bullet point here. Next weekend is the I-91 Shop Hop from June 22nd to the 25th. So that's the Thursday through Sunday, I think. And that is a yarn crawl with, I believe, 11 local yarn stores from Connecticut to Vermont, all along the I-91 highway. I'm going, my mom's going. We are really looking forward to it. And just thought I'd put the word out there, because honestly I hadn't heard of it until fairly recently. So if you are in the Connecticut, Massachusetts, or Vermont areas and you would like to check it out, there's a link to the Facebook page in the show notes that you can find at freakishlemon.com. And I don't have anything else in these bullet points because, frankly, it's just been work, home, and doing all the things that I'm going to talk about later on in this podcast, because I don't leave my house. That's what happens. So we're going to skip anything else I might talk about in life stuff and go on to knitting stuff, which is very exciting this episode because I have 2 finished objects. 2 of them. First thing I have is my finished pair of Anakin socks, which is kind of in my phone, losing the keels into my black shirt. Yay! These are knit with the Anakin self-striping yarn from Mustache Yarns, because in a fit of Star Wars obsessed madness, I bought all of the Mustache self-striping Star Wars yarn. It's a 64 stitch vanilla sock, 2x2 rib, star toe, knit a tube, did the toe, cut in an afterthought heel, and used the Smooth Operator Socks heel by Susan B. Anderson because it's currently my favorite. And this is just some black Knit Picks stroll fingering. So these are done. Huzzah! Another pair from my box of socks. But the real shining star of this podcast is going to be my next finished object, which is my Find Your Fade shawl. This is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, which has been very popular. I knit mine on US 3.25 millimeter needles, which you will not believe because my gauge is extraordinarily loose and this thing is gigundo, which everybody says as soon as they finish it, but I think we get so bogged down on just finishing sections that we forget to take in the whole, and so when we bind it off, we suddenly have a shawl big enough for a minivan. So for the last time, going through my colorways, this is Once Upon a Corgi's Series of Unfortunate Events colorway, But It Could Kill You. This is Once Upon a Corgi's Series of Unfortunate Events colorway, His Name is Shirley. This is Once Upon a Corgi's Series of Unfortunate Events colorway, Coconut Cream Cake. This is Legacy Fiber Arts Sweater Weather. This is Woolen Vine Yarns Mooncusser. This is Into the World's Heirloom Ornamental. I finally looked it up and put it in the show notes. And this last color is, what is the name of this company? Mountain Colors Inc. in the colorway Pinecone. And this has not been blocked. Well, I wore it out in the rain the other day. That's as close to blocked as it's gonna get before its first washing. And even then, it's just gonna be a wash and then lay flat to dry. Because I'm pretty sure this is like 2 wingspans. So 1 brings me to here. Yep, it's more than 2. Because 2 brings me to here. So it's more than 2 wingspans. And it's longer than my torso. We'll say that. It is longer than my torso. Have I been showing you? No, yes, I'm showing you the right side. No, I'm showing you the wrong side. I'm terrible. Because when trying to figure out how I would even wear this, I told myself that this goes on the right side. That's why I was showing you the wrong side. So here's what the actual fading stripes should look like. But yeah. I've determined that the best way for me to wear this is basically, oh, I'm getting caught on a spinning wheel. Basically wear it like a cloak. I do have a cloak pin that I use for shawls. One of those circle pins. So here it is, more or less on the way I would wear it. Wore it as a jacket the other day in the rain, like I said. And I'm very pleased with it. I'm very pleased with this giant monstrosity. But it is a relief to have it off the needles. I did meant to talk to you about my bind off. So this bind off is not going to be visible. There, ooh, fancy camera. This bind off, like I said, this is not blocked. And I'm not really stretching this. Oh, it's on my eyes. It's a little blown out, but this is the suspended bind off that I learned how to do out of the 54 cast-ons and bind-offs book. It's a blue book. I should have grabbed it. I'll try to remember to put a link in the down bar, but it's a fairly common bind-off, cast-on reference book. And I used the suspended bind-off, which was super easy to learn and looks phenomenal at my gauge. I find a traditional bind-off is usually a little too tight for me. I have problems tensioning that. But it's the perfect bind-off for it's currently my favorite thing. So, yay. Finished object, and it's too hot and humid to be wearing it, so I'm gonna just toss it on the floor. Because it's too big to put back on the table. Yes. So I've also been working on some other projects. I've been trying to finish up my Boba Fett socks. Again, all these Star Wars self-striping socks are being knit the same way. I'm in the process of knitting the first heel. The second sock is just a tube with a toe. And it's in a needle cozy because, I'll just drop everything. It's ready to have the row cut to put in the heel. I just don't want these needles escaping because it's ready to go as soon as I cut that stitch and begin picking out. Because I measure where the heels go in the socks all at once. I actually measured for the Anakin socks and the Boba Fett socks all at the same time. And again, same details as the Anakin socks. So that's those. I've also been working on my next pair of socks because I need something to work on my breaks at work. When my hands are cooperating. My hands have been achy past few weeks, so it's been kind of if I can type of situation. So let me grab the yarn because I'm not very far along in this. So this is the start of I'm all tangled up in the needles. That's what happens when I magic loop and I don't pay attention. So here we go. More self-striping mustache. Star Wars yarn. This is the colorway that Stacy created for the Rogue One movie when it came out. I think it has since been renamed Jyn Erso, but it says Rogue One on my tag. I've got it in my notes as Jyn Erso because these are kind of... I'm under the impression that these are the colors inspired by her. I could be wrong, but I'm gonna say it is. And it's in my linen trundle bag from Matterroot, which is a Maine kind of fabric printing company. They do linen fabrics and tea towels and project bags and things. Very cool stuff. I also started a new project when I needed something to work on at work that wasn't fingering weight yarn because it hurt to hold the needles because my hands have been sore for the past couple weeks. So this is in my... I forgot who makes this bag. Is the card in here? Jenna Rose. Jenna Rose Bag. You couldn't read that, but here's the Jenna Rose bag. And I've I got these in the other day. I saw them on Etsy, and I needed to own them for my Dark Soul. It's an anatomical heart, and they're getting really shiny, and a bottle of poison. Enamel pins. These are from Bada Boom Studios, I think. I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes. They're a Canadian pin company. But I saw them on Etsy and I was like, my Dark Soul needs to have this. I don't know if they will actually forever live on this bag, but right now they're living on this bag. So I started a pair of mittens. These are the Dwarven Mittens by Ginger Monkey Knits. I'm tangled in the row counter. I'm knitting them on a US 3.25 millimeter needles. In Plymouth Yarns Homestead Tweed in the gray colorway. See, I'm not very far. I've done the ribbing and I'm about a third of the way through the cable repeat. These mittens are inspired by a pair of mittens worn by one of the dwarves in the Hobbit live action movies. And this is my third time making this pattern. I made them as a gift for a friend for Christmas a couple years ago, and I made a pair of fingerless mitts out of this pattern for my brother last year for Christmas. And both times, I really like how this gauge of fabric and this pattern in particular fits my hands. Because I have broad palms, and in comparison to my other siblings, short fingers. Yeah, half of us have broad palms, short fingers. The other half of us have narrow hands with long fingers. So sometimes it's hard to fit things, depending on your gauge, but I really, really enjoy these mittens. So I'm making myself a pair because I don't actually have any mittens that I've made for myself. I only have store-bought things, and that is very sad. So, making a pair of mittens. Quick and easy project between other things. No crochet this week, which is impressive. That's because I was focused on finishing that shawl. Fiber stuff, which really brings us to what I've been doing for Sith and Spin. And you know I gotta use that title sequence whenever I possibly can. Because it's the best. So I've been doing a lot of Sith and spinning. I started spinning my mystery fleece on the hitchhiker wheel. I didn't get very far because my hands were hurting, but I put a little bit of singles on this wheel. I love that I can just pick this up and show it to you on camera because it's so tiny. I've been consistently working on my brown cormo for the brown cormo sweater that I'm trying to spin for. I finished... No, I think I talked about the finished storage bobbin last episode. I am halfway through another bobbin, so making my way through it. I also finished one of my 4-ounce bundles of alpaca that I bought at the Connecticut Sheep and Wool this year, Connecticut Sheep and Wool Festival this year. It's from Alpaca Obsession, which is a local Connecticut alpaca farm, and I spun this on an elm drop spindle. It's a 2-ply worsted / heavy worsted / uneven spun because it's matching some of my very first hand spun ever. black alpaca. So I have to finish the white alpaca, another black alpaca, and a red 4-ounce bundle of alpaca. And then I believe I will have everything I need for the alpaca project, which is very exciting because I'm planning on making a Quaker yarn stretcher, I think. I have the pattern picked out. It's probably in my queue with notes on Ravelry. I know I can find it. Pretty sure it's the Quaker yarn stretcher with all of my varying bits and bobs of alpaca hand spun. It just looks like I'm holding nothing in the air on the phone. It's just like a black hole with my little ties so I can find them. But yeah, I love to spin and I love Star Wars. I love Sith and Spin. It's the best. I'm hoping Sith and Spin will really kick my butt in getting this sweater spun done, because ideally the sweater that I make out of this Cormo will be my Rhinebeck sweater. That's the goal. So I gotta get moving on that. But that's it for spinning / fiber stuff this week. I have been doing some sewing stuff, which you can see behind me. I've been spending a lot of time on my Hawkeye quilt. I don't remember if I showed you that all of the arrow panels are quilted and trimmed to about within 1/8 of an inch of the same size as each other. So those are all done. And I have finished the quilting on all of the bullseyes. I had finished, I think, one last time. So I've finished all of the quilting. These do need to be pressed and trimmed, but I am nearly at the sashing stage, which is very exciting. So these will be pressed and trimmed, and then the sashing will be done, and the binding, with this arrow fabric. Because if you're unfamiliar with the Hawkeye quilt, sometimes I forget that I haven't talked about it in a million years. I started putting together the idea for this quilt while I was in the midst of reading Matt Fraction's run of Hawkeye comic books for Marvel Comics. If you don't know who Hawkeye is, the Avengers, he's the guy with the bow and arrow. That's Hawkeye. There is also Hawkeye, who is Kate Bishop, who's a teenage girl who basically does the same thing that Hawkeye does. They have the same name. It's a delight. They're kind of best friend disasters. Anyway, so arrows are a thing with them. So I have this arrow fabric that I'm going to be making the sashing for the quilt and the binding for the quilt. And I will be using this bias tape maker that was part of some stocking stuffers that my mom got me for Christmas. I think I'm going to go with the nice big thick bias tape to hold this quilt together. But I don't know, we'll see. I got plenty of arrow fabric. So that is very exciting. I'm very excited to have that done and hanging on a wall. It feels like I'm suddenly finishing things right now, which is a good feeling to have. Speaking of finishing things, I'm nearly complete with my Star Wars little cross-stitch ships. These are from patterns by the Dinosaur Spaceship shop on Etsy. So I've got my little Millennium Falcon, my Death Star, my Slave One, and my Star Destroyer, which were all completed previous to this episode. And over the past few days, I've completed a TIE fighter and an X-Wing, which is very exciting. This also needs to be pressed because it's got hoop creases all over it. And once it's pressed and ready to go, I will, cut out each section, and I will be framing these in these little 3-inch hoops and hanging them on my wall. Then maybe I can finally get back to that Star Wars Arabesh sampler that's been languishing for over a year. But yeah, that's all the ships that come in the pack that I bought from Dinosaur Spaceship. So that's very exciting. I can't wait to put those up on my wall. I'm just so happy about it. I'm also very, very tired, so it's way past my bedtime. So enthusiasm might not be my strong suit this episode. Just so you're aware. I did a lot of work in sewing stuff, but those are the only 2 items I have to talk about in sewing stuff. So I guess we'll move on to new stuff. This feels very rushed. It never ends up being rushed, but it feels very rushed. So, new stuff. You might have seen on Instagram, if you follow me there, that I bought a spin dryer for wool purposes. If I remember, I'll throw a quick photo or something in here so you can see what it looks like, because I'm not dragging it over here for the podcast. Also, if you watched Kristen from Bolenvine Yarns and the Yarngasm podcast episode when she got her spin dryer, it's the same one. And a spin dryer is basically a machine that works like a giant salad spinner. You've got a tub with holes in it that you put things in, and it spins around, and the force of the spinning shoots all the water out. My sister Gabby from Once Upon a Corgi has one for her yarn dyeing business. That's why Kristen has one. The woman behind the Classy Squid Fiber Company recently got one, and she's been thrilled with it. And it's something I've been thinking about since I've been doing a lot more hand spun and generally washing wool a lot more. It's something that I think I will definitely find handy for hand spun, especially for this Cormo. The skein of Cormo that I did finish, when I soaked it to finish it, it took it like a week to dry because it's so absorbent and bouncy, and it just didn't dry. So for stuff like that, that's going to be a real big help. Just to cut down on drying time for hand spun. But, in the future, because I know myself, when I do purchase another fleece, and after washing it, the mystery fleeces took a million years to dry, so that would be extremely helpful. I do at some point want to play around with dyeing some more in a more serious fashion. My mom's looking to start dyeing yarn, so she'll find it helpful. So we're pretty excited that I splurged and bought one. I haven't used it yet, but very exciting. Hopefully Sith and Spin will make me use it by finishing the Cormo. And then a couple other things. I got in my second volume of Rib magazine. Navigate is the name of this one. And you guys, if you were even tempted to get the first one, definitely get the second one. There's a lot more in here that personally appeals to me to make. And I'm really, really excited. Like, I want to make this pullover. This is the only picture that you'd be able to see it all in my camera. Because it's a navy blue sweater, so the smaller pictures are not going to show the cables at all. But that's really neat. What are the other ones? I want to make this pullover. The survey pullover. I've only vaguely looked at this. I want to make this pullover. Like, this is the volume with all the sweaters I want to make. And there's some, other stuff in here that's really good. There's a scarf, there's a pair of socks, there's some fingerless mitts, there's a hat. But the sweaters in this one kind of blew me away. And I'm so excited to make some of them. Don't know when I'll be making them, but I'm very, very excited. I haven't actually read through it or anything yet, but yeah, if any of this appeals to you, I'm saying this like you know what it is. I'm sure most of you know what it is. It's a magazine created by Eric Lutz from Sticks Plus Twine podcast, and Devin, who was half of Handmade in Woolen, but I think that podcast is now done. I think they've decided not to continue the podcast, but they put together this magazine for knitting for masculine identified folk. So, yeah, because the majority of knitting patterns are for feminine identified folk and small children. Because in modern times, it's been traditionally women's hobby, craft, work. So those are the things you're more likely to make if you're the one making them. So very exciting. I'm very excited about these sweaters. I got it in the mail and Gabby was over. We were just going through and we were like, ooh, I would like to make this. I would like to make this. This is a good pattern. It's very exciting. I do have to actually read this because there's articles and things in here too, but very, very exciting. And if any of this interests you, definitely pick this one up. It's delightful. And I have the June Series of Unfortunate Events colorway from Once Upon a Corgi. So if you have not received yours yet or don't want to be spoiled with what it is, I'm going to, same way I always do, tell the name of the yarn, and then I will show the yarn without saying anything, and then I will put the yarn down. So I will tell you when I'm going to show the yarn, and then I will tell you when the yarn is gone, so you can just cover your eyes if you don't want to see the colorway. So, Once Upon a Corgi on the Audrey base, which is the 80% superwash BFL, 20% nylon. And the name of the colorway for June is Miracles and Meatballs. And I'm going to show the colorway now. And it's gone. So if you were closing your eyes, you can come back now. I really like that one. I'm very pleased. When Gabby brought it up, she threw it at me. She's like, here's one for you. She was excited to give me that one, which is delightful. But yeah, that's all the new stuff for now. And we'll have probably a bigger new stuff segment next episode after the yarn crawl. So that will bring us to other stuff, which is kind of a long segment this week. Last weekend there was a day when my hands just ached too much to craft, so I ended up starting and playing a bunch of video games. So yeah, 3 of them are Star Wars games, surprising absolutely no one. So I wanted to talk about these games a little bit, because they're kind of a range of games. So, first game on my list is Dark Forces. This is a PC game that I bought on Steam in a bundle that was on sale on Star Wars Day, May the 4th. The entire bundle, I think, was less than $10, and I got 5 games. And Dark Forces 2 are in it, because they are old games. I think it was 1995 when Dark Forces came out. It's basically Doom, but Star Wars, and you're running missions in Imperial bases for the Rebels, which is a delight. I am running this game with cheat codes. I do use the invulnerability cheat in this game because I am horrendously awful at first-person shooters. And it is a first-person shooter. And also, I'm a much better shot when I can't die. Like, I actually hit the stormtroopers when I can't die. If I can die, I don't hit a goddamn thing on the screen except for walls. It's... There's a lot of pressure in first-person shooters, I've found, for me playing in particular. Also, this copy of the game, because it's old and I'm pretty sure it's being run on an emulator, sometimes rooms don't render and it's just pitch black. And you're just stumbling around, bumping into stormtroopers as they shoot you. I haven't gotten very far. I think I'm on the 3rd or 4th level. I'm also not very good at navigating first-person shooters. I lose all sense of direction when it's a first-person view. It's completely gone. I have no idea where I am. Yeah, which isn't helped by the fact that so much of the first couple levels is just gray pixels. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's very 90s video game. It's hitting that nostalgia for Doom, because that's a game I used to play with God mode on when I was a kid, and just like run around punching aliens in the face. Super fun. I also started playing Star Wars Commander again. This is a mobile game. I had started it a while back, but I don't know what login I used for it because I got a new phone and, you know, it resets your passwords for everything. And I put in what I thought was my password and it started me a new game. I'm not that mad about it. Yeah, it's a mobile game. It's one of those world-building games where you have your base and you build all your little buildings and create troops and earn money and get resources and then build your base bigger and bigger, and you go out and attack other places. Like Civilization, or a lot of like fantasy games were like that. I know there's been other Star Wars games like that, because I know I've played some, but I don't remember what they were. But yeah, it's on mobile, and not very far in that either, but you're basically a little base on Tatooine. You ally yourselves with the Rebels or the Empire, and you go on raids of Tusken camps and other bases, and there is some interconnectivity with other players, but I really don't like playing against other people. I don't want to deal with other people when I'm playing video games. That's not my style. I also started playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which is another mobile game that a bunch of my folks that I follow on Tumblr have been playing recently. And this game is you as the player are a person in the Star Wars universe, and you're playing this holographic fighting game, and you collect holographic fighters that are characters in the Star Wars universe. This is an awesome game to play while doing other things. I definitely enjoyed being focused on it at the beginning when I was learning it, but you get to a point where you have to keep playing the same fights to get more money or get more resources for your players, or pick up shards to collect to get other players. And that can be really tedious in a lot of games. But this game has some really cool mechanics for it. You can speed up your fights. You can go, I think, 1.5, 2, and 4 times speed. So I play on 4 times speed, and you can also auto your fights. So if you're, in that stage where you're just trying to get resources so you can get the next stuff so you can advance, you can auto play your games. So the computer will play both sides. It will play the enemy side, and it will play your side too, and just go through the fight, which is really great, especially if you're replaying early battles where it's kind of boring just fighting Jawas. But you need the stuff that's in that level. So that's a great game to be playing while you're doing other things. Could be a Sith and Spin game. If you're coordinated. I don't think I'm that coordinated to Sith and Spin, but I was definitely quilting and playing this game at the same time. I really enjoy it. And when I joined, I was so mad I hadn't joined like a year ago and was much further on in the game, because they do these events in the game. The events are limited time things, but there is a disclaimer on them that they will repeat later. But events are things like you can get 2 times something on dark side battles, or there was a special window where for 3 days, if you did this special challenge, you could get Yoda really easily, even though he's hard to get. And they were doing a Phoenix Squadron event last week, I think, where the characters from Rebels were easier to get, or you got certain other special things if you got one of the Rebels characters during that time frame. Like, not exclusive things, but it was just easier to get things if those were things that you wanted. So it was really fun, and I was like, damn it, I'm not far enough along in this game that I can get any of this stuff. But it definitely makes me want to play the game. So that's a fun one I've been playing around with. And then my non-Star Wars game that I kind of came back to. I'd been really into it for like 4 days and then forgot about it for a month. But this is a game called Fallen London. I don't think I talked about it on the podcast. It's both a mobile game and a browser game. I do like the music in the mobile game. So there is that. There's no music in the browser game that I could find. I did like having it up in my browser though, so you can play both, but I've had syncing issues with playing both. But I've got it on my phone now, and that's where it's going to stay for now, I think. But this is an alternate Victorian London that has sunk beneath the surface of the world, and it's full of demons. The demons are pretty much in charge. And you escape from prison, and you have to find your way around through fallen London and kind of establish yourself and what kind of character you want to be. It's text and static image based, so it's clicking and reading a lot of things, but it's super, super fun. There's lots of mystery about what's even going on in this world. Why is it like this? What's happening? And everything's kind of spooky and weird. It is a lot of fun. I do find with this game that it's one of those games where it's free to play, but you can spend actual money for stuff in the game. You can do that in Galaxy of Heroes too, but I'm finding that I'm running into that paywall barrier just a smidge more in Fallen London, because you have a set number of actions that you can take before it makes you wait, or you can pay to not wait. I think it's 20 actions, which is, it's a good number of actions, but sometimes you get really into a thing that you're doing and you hit that wall where you've used up all your actions. You can't do anything else with that part of the game until the time resets. Yeah, if you're really casual in the game, I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. But I was running into it when I was doing a particular story. Like, I'm still trying to figure out the secret tattoo artist's nonsense. But by the time I remember and I get back to it, I run out of actions, so I can't progress any further. It's a thing to keep in mind, but it is a really fun game. And spooky and weird. And it's a delight. I finally got proper lodgings. So that's one of the things you have to do in the game, is to find lodgings. In the first place, it's not a great spot, but I got a flat above a bookshop. And I bought that with several hundred whispered secrets. Or whispered hints. I don't remember. But it's a lot of fun currency in that game. Like, there's actual currency, but there's, whispered secrets. There's, like, hidden meaning. Like, it's really, really cool. Yeah. So I have one entry for stuff I'm watching this week. Because I haven't really I've been watching Doctor Who, but I feel like it's easier to talk about Doctor Who when you finish the season, because they tend to be interconnected episodes. But just after I filmed the last podcast, the family went to go see Wonder Woman, which was incredible. I know that's not news to anybody. It's been a few weeks since it came out, and everybody's been raving about it, but it is genuinely one of the best movies that I've seen in a long time. It's phenomenal. If you have not gone to see Wonder Woman yet, you need to go see Wonder Woman. It's incredible. Yep. Amazing. There's not really anything else I can say about it. like you walk out of that movie just feeling like the sun is shining in your soul for the first time in decades, and you're like, oh, the world is not full of misery. For like an hour and a half. It's amazing. It's amazing. But I'm going to move on now, instead of just gushing about Wonder Woman for the next 24 hours. Stuff I'm reading. I did a lot of reading while my hands were sore. So I finished Star Wars Galaxy of Fear: The Hunger, which officially completes the Star Wars Galaxy of Fear series. I know you're all going to be sad that you won't be seeing covers like this bit of majesty anymore. But it was fun while it lasted. So I've started a new kids series from Star Wars. I have vague recollection of starting this first one, but I didn't have any of the rest of the series in the house. So I don't know what happened there. But I did start The Last of the Jedi with the first book, The Desperate Mission by Jude Watson. So we're back to our good friend Jude Watson, who also wrote The Jedi Apprentice and the Jedi Quest series, which I have talked about on this podcast before, if you're new. I love the ridiculousness, okay? I do. I love it. So this is after the fall of the Republic. We're starting in on Obi-Wan Kenobi's exile to Tatooine. And this book starts out, he's doing his sad hermit business, and he's watching Luke grow up from afar like a creeper. But he hears rumor. He hears a rumor that there's a Jedi that's been captured. And he's like, I know this Jedi, because it's none other than Ferris Olin, who was one of Anakin's peers from the Jedi Quest series. And he decides he needs to figure out what's going on. Now, this book was particularly joyous for me. I'm not going to give away the plot of it, but it's a desperate mission, Obi-Wan Kenobi, to save the day, because that's what he does. But this book was particularly enjoyable for me, because it features my favorite Star Wars character of all time. And by favorite, I mean baffling fascination. It's just, I just can't wrap my brain around this character. I can't do it. And I did not know that this character was in this book. So when he showed up, it was like a true fanboy revelation in my brain. That character is a character named Darhan. He's a bounty hunter, kind of. And he's only kind of a he, kind of, because he's not really a person anymore. I had to go read the Wikipedia entry on him, because I just needed to know, because I couldn't remember what we knew about him. But according to the Wikipedia entry, which I don't think was in the book that I read, I don't know where all this background information is coming from, but he's from a planet pretty close to wild space, I think. And at some point during the Clone Wars, he put himself in a program to turn himself basically into a sentient laser turret. They removed his head and mounted a cannon on his shoulders, took out his brain, and basically put it in a box in his chest. They had to, reinforce all his spine. They had to, Wolverine his bones and spine, and they gave him a tail, like a droid tail, to counterbalance the kickback from the laser turret head. And he's the only one left. Possibly from the entire planet. And I just can't wrap my brain around what that character must be like. He's not even an augmented sentient, because it's not improving his life as a sentient. It's like, what? What are the motivations for this character? What could he possibly want in the universe? He's a turret. Like, he can't talk. He has like a keyboard and screen that he pulls out of his chest box so that you can communicate with him. Like, he doesn't want to talk to anybody. That takes 10 years. Like, he doesn't eat food. I don't know if he sleeps. He, like, powers down, I guess. He's got a turret instead of a head. So baffling. And he makes an appearance in this book. And I could not believe my eyeballs that he was there. Because so fascinatingly baffling. There's not enough information on this guy. I need to know everything. And it's just not there. So anyway, yes. I started the second book, which is Dark Warning. But I don't think if he's in this one, I don't think he's in it for very long. Darn. I just can't. Anyway, yeah, I'm a couple of pages into this one. But I'm excited for the mad adventures of Obi-Wan Kenobi and former Jedi Padawan Ferris Olin. And of course, there's our good buddy Vader. Vader's always gotta have his hands in whatever. He's gotta be involved in everything. Oh, I'm so excited by this series. That's such a great start to the series for me. You've done it again, Jude Watson. I love everything. Love it. So I've also been re-listening to Star Wars Clone Wars Gambit Stealth by Karen Miller, narrated by Jeff Gerner, for Sith and Spin. I finished that one, and I'm re-listening to the next book in the series, which is all the same titles, except at the end it's called Siege by Karen Miller, narrated by Jeff Gerner. And I love that series. It's such a delight. It's so typical of the kind of meat of the Clone Wars stuff. Like, on the surface, you're just getting lightsaber battles and killing droids and fighting with clones. But then you have moments where you're like, whoa, those were a lot of feelings for what should be silly entertainment. I love Star Wars. I really do. It's just so good. Anyway, speaking of Star Wars, we've come to the last bit of this podcast, which is the fanfic recommendation for this episode. It's another Star Wars fanfic recommendation, because I read a lot of Star Wars fanfic these days. I'm going to make the attempt to try to gather some other fanfic other than Star Wars fanfic. I did Harry Potter last week, and I've done Harry Potter fic before, but I gotta branch out on those recommendations a smidge. So yeah, Star Wars fanfic recommendation. It's another time travel. I'm gonna guess about 90% of the fics that I've recommended have been time travel. Just love Star Wars time travel so much. It's called The One That Got Away by Puns, Bullets, and Pointy Things. The summary for this fic is, Qui-Gon really hadn't expected much when he agreed to go out for a drink with Micah and Tal a few months after his knighting. Really. But the Force had other ideas. Like I said, it's a time travel fic, and unable to speak. It is exploring the romantic relationship between Qui-Gon Jinn throughout various points of his life, starting from just pretty soon after his knighting, throughout a big chunk of his life, with Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. who keeps popping back into the past uncontrollably. He just pops up in the past, things happen, and he disappears. Back to the future is what happens. This is not a fic for children. There is sexual content in it, but I really enjoy the kind of buildup of Qui-Gon meeting this stranger, having this encounter, and then he keeps meeting this guy who says he's a Jedi, but he never sees him at any other point. And it's always at a time when one of them needs the other one. And there's a kind of building, I don't want to say unease because that's not the right word, but Qui-Gon knows that something is happening. And the buildup of him slowly trying to fit the pieces together as time goes on, as they have more encounters, as Ben becomes more relaxed with what is happening and letting his guard down and letting in clues about who he is and where he's coming from, it's really, really good. It's, I believe, still ongoing, but we're nearing the end now. That's kind of the vibe I get from the way the story is progressing. And it is really, really good. And I really love this characterization of Qui-Gon. I really love this characterization of Obi-Wan as he tries to, like, he doesn't know why this is happening, but he's going to make the most of it because Qui-Gon was violently murdered and taken away from him. And it changed everything for him. So it's really, really good fic, and the weight of each of these characters and what you know happens in the movies and what you know that each of the other characters knows. It's really, really well done. Highly recommend it. And that's gonna do it for this episode. Yeah, my laptop's gonna die any minute now. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of this episode. Don't forget, let me know what we should be doing with the Ravelry group. If you have any suggestions or anything, either on Ravelry, here in the comments, shoot me a message. I don't care, just get in contact with me if you have opinions about what we should be doing with the Ravelry group, because I don't know what I'm doing. And don't forget to leave a comment or a thumbs up or a favorite or a heart or whatever on a piece of digital content that somebody is creating for free for you that you have consumed today, because appreciating creators goes a long way. So yeah, show notes and links are over at freakishlemon.com or freakishlemonpodcast.com, so you can find everything that I was talking about. Hopefully I haven't completely lost track of everything I was talking about. It happens. If you don't see something that I talked about and I said it was going to be there, just yell at me. I'll fix it. Come join the Ravelry group over on Ravelry. Search Freakish Lemon in the groups tab and you will find us. And I was going to say something else there, but I've lost that train of thought, so we're just going to keep going. You can follow me at all the fun places at as Freakish Lemon, like Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Ravelry. And if you in particular like my Star Wars ramblings, please come over to Tumblr. Please. It is the best place for fanfic and Star Wars ramblings in my digital life. It's even more than what I've got up here, so, you know, if that's your jam, come join me over on Tumblr. Links to all the things will be in the down bar here below on YouTube or somewhere around here if you're watching this somewhere else. And if you are watching this on YouTube, or if you would like to be fairly reliably, I don't know how YouTube's doing these days with that. They've probably fixed it. Notified that I've posted new videos. Sorry, I've been on YouTube so long. There's been periodic times where stuff just doesn't show up in your subscriptions boxes, but I think that has not been a problem for many years, and I just have no concept of time passing. But if you do want to be notified that a new video has gone up on this channel, which is most likely a podcast episode, please hit that little subscribe button down there, or maybe that notifications bell, depending on what you want, but that's up to you. Yeah. That's gonna be it. That's it. Maybe after Doctor Who is not a good idea to film these. I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep right now, so I better turn this off. Goodbye.